She danced with the wrong man at her ex's wedding, not knowing he was a millionaire who'd fall for her. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The ballroom of the Waldorf Hotel shimmered beneath a cascade of crystal lights. Laughter floated through the air, mixed with the clink of champagne glasses and the rhythm of a live band playing something slow and elegant. Every detail of the evening screamed perfection except for the woman standing alone near the dessert table, pretending to be fascinated by a tray of macarons she could never afford. Her name was Ella Nguyen, a 27-year-old wedding dress designer who had stitched hundreds of gowns for other brides, but never her own. And tonight, she was attending a wedding she had sworn she would never come to the wedding of her ex-boyfriend, Ethan. She told herself she was fine, that she had moved on. But the moment she saw Ethan at the altar, smiling that same easy smile that used to melt her defenses, something inside her cracked. Her heart still remembered, even when her pride begged it not to. As the band shifted to a romantic waltz, couples drifted toward the dance floor. Ella tried to slip away quietly, clutching her clutch bag like a shield, but a sudden push from the crowd sent her stumbling forward. Someone's hand caught hers firm, warm, and steady. "Careful," a low voice murmured. She looked up, and for a moment the room fell away. The man before her was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo. His eyes were the color of winter nights, calm but searching, and his smile was the kind that could undo years of self-control. "I am so sorry," she blurted, her cheeks burning. "I thought you were someone else." He tilted his head, amused. "Maybe you were supposed to think that." Ella hesitated, torn between embarrassment and something strangely magnetic. Around them, the music swelled, violins rising, the crowd clapping to the beat. He extended his hand again. "One dance, then you can run away." Her instinct said no. Her curiosity said, why not? She took his hand. His palm was warm, his movements precise yet gentle, leading her effortlessly through the waltz. Her dress brushed against his suit. His cologne was faint, clean, something like cedar and rain. For the first time that night, she forgot who was watching. "So," he said quietly, eyes on hers, "whose wedding are we crashing?" She laughed nervously. "My ex's." He raised an eyebrow, not mocking, just intrigued. "That explains the look." "What look?" "The one that says, 'I am fine,' when you clearly are not." She wanted to be offended, but his voice carried no judgment, only calm certainty. "Who are you?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "Someone who knows how to listen," he replied. Lucas Hale." No. The name meant nothing to her, though it should have. If she had read the financial pages or paid attention to the stock market, she might have known he was the CEO of Hale Capital, one of New York's youngest self-made millionaires. But that night, in that glittering ballroom, he was just the stranger who had saved her from humiliation and gave her a reason to breathe again. When the song ended, she stepped back quickly, fumbling with her clutch. "Thank you, Mr. Hale, for rescuing me from public disaster." He smiled faintly. "I should thank you. I do not usually dance at other people's weddings." "Well," she said, flustered, "you make a convincing partner." Then a flicker of pain crossed her face as she noticed Ethan and his new bride on the dance floor, spinning effortlessly under the lights. Her chest tightened. "Excuse me," she whispered and turned away. Lucas watched her go, the scent of her perfume lingering in the air, light, floral, honest. He noticed something glint on the floor where she had stood. A small silver bracelet, delicate and worn, engraved with the initials E.N. He bent down, picked it up, and turned it in his hand. "She danced with the wrong man," he murmured to himself. "Or maybe, the right one." Outside, the night air was cool and sharp. Ella exhaled, fighting the sting behind her eyes. She had come to prove she was over him, but instead, she had just danced with a stranger who felt dangerously real. As she slipped into a taxi, her W, and somewhere inside the ballroom, Lucas Hale pocketed the bracelet, already knowing he would find her again. The next morning, sunlight crept through the thin curtains of Ella's small apartment in Brooklyn. The hum of the city had already started outside, buses groaning, horns echoing between the narrow streets. She sat at her tiny kitchen table, a cup of instant coffee cooling beside her sketchbook. Pages of dress designs lay scattered like fallen leaves. Her roommate, Maya, peeked out from the bedroom, hair in a messy bun, holding a half-eaten piece of toast. "So, how was the big wedding?" she asked, voice teasing. Ella gave a weak smile. "Beautiful. Perfect. Exactly how he always wanted it." Maya raised an eyebrow. "You mean exactly how you used to want it?" Ella sighed and closed her sketchbook. "Maybe once. Not anymore." She hesitated before adding, "I danced with a stranger last night." Maya nearly dropped her toast. "You what?" "I got pushed onto the dance floor. He caught me. It was nothing. Just a dance." "Right," Maya said with a grin. "And I only go to the gym for the free Wi-Fi." Ella shook her head, but a small laugh escaped her. For a moment, the heaviness in her chest lifted. Then, her gaze drifted to her wrist, suddenly remembering. The bracelet, her mother's bracelet, gone. Her heart sank. That was the only thing she had left from her mother, who had passed away when Ella was 16. The thought of losing it made her stomach twist. She rummaged through her purse, under the couch cushions, even the pocket of her dress. Nothing. It must have fallen off at the wedding. Across town, in a penthouse overlooking Central Park, Lucas Hale stood by the window, the silver bracelet resting in his hand. He turned it between his fingers, reading the engraved initials again. E.N. He wondered who she really was. Something about her, her honesty, the unguarded way she had looked at him had stayed with him all night. He could still hear her laugh over the music. His assistant, Claire, entered the room with a tablet. "Your meeting with the investment board starts in 20 minutes. Lucas nodded absent-mindedly. "Cancel it." Claire blinked. "Cancel? It is the quarterly review." "I know. Reschedule it for tomorrow." He set the bracelet down on his desk. "There is something else I need to do today." Back in Brooklyn, Ella took a deep breath and told herself to let it go. She had bills to pay, clients waiting, and a portfolio to finish for the bridal rebirth competition, a small design contest that might finally get her noticed. She gathered her sketches into a worn leather folder and headed out, her mind still replaying the stranger's words. "Maybe you were supposed to think that." At the design studio, the manager barked orders while models hurried around in half-fitted gowns. Ella worked quietly in the corner, pinning fabric to a mannequin. Her eyes burned from exhaustion, but her hands moved with steady grace. Every stitch was a small act of defiance against the chaos of her life. When the day finally ended, she stepped outside into the fading light, rubbing her wrist out of habit. The spot where the bracelet used to be felt strangely bare, almost haunted. She whispered, "I am sorry, Mom," then started walking home. Meanwhile, Lucas sat in the back seat of his car, his driver navigating through the evening traffic. In his lap was the same bracelet, now cleaned and glinting under the light. He did not understand why he cared so much, but something in him refused to toss it aside. "Drive to the event hall from last night," he said quietly. "I need to return something." As the car pulled away, Lucas looked out at the city that had made him rich but rarely moved him anymore. He thought of her again, the woman with sad eyes who claimed she was fine. For the first time in a long while, he wanted to see someone not for business, not for power, but simply to know who she really was. Neither of them knew it yet, but that lost bracelet was about to draw their worlds together again. 2 days later, the city was caught between late winter chill and the first hint of spring. A gray drizzle painted the sidewalks as Ella hurried through Midtown, clutching her portfolio under her arm. Today was her interview for the bridal rebirth competition, the one chance she had to prove her designs were worth more than rent money and overnight stitching. The event was held in a sleek glass building near Bryant Park. She stepped inside, heart pounding, the smell of coffee and perfume mixing in the air. A receptionist pointed her toward the elevators. "Top floor, presentation room B. You have 10 minutes. As the elevator climbed, Ella whispered to herself, "Just breathe. You belong here." She had said those words 100 times, but they still felt like a lie. When she entered the presentation room, 3 judges sat at a long table. 2 of them were middle-aged women with neat buns and sharp eyes. The third was a man in a dark suit, sitting slightly apart from the others, his expression unreadable. Ella's breath caught. Lucas Hale. For a split second, she thought she might be dreaming. The tuxedo was gone, replaced by a tailored navy suit. His hair was perfectly styled, but his eyes were exactly the same, steady, calm, and somehow warm even through the distance. He met her gaze and smiled slightly. "Miss Nguyen, you may begin." Her hands trembled as she placed her sketches on the table. "Good morning. My collection is called Second Bloom. It is inspired by women who rebuild their lives after heartbreak, like flowers that bloom again after the frost." She spoke clearly, forcing herself to focus on the designed silhouettes of soft silk and lace, each dress symbolizing renewal. When she looked up again, Lucas was still watching her. Not judging, not smirking, just listening. One of the female judges nodded approvingly. "Beautiful work, Miss Nguyen. Simple but full of feeling." "Thank you," Ella said, her voice soft. Lucas leaned forward slightly. "You mentioned heartbreak. Is this inspired by something personal?" The question caught her off guard. She hesitated, then answered honestly. "Yes. Sometimes you have to lose everything before you remember who you are." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Lucas said, "That is a powerful perspective. Thank you for sharing it." His tone was formal, but his eyes said something else, something that made her chest tighten. When the interview ended, Ella walked out into the corridor, her pulse racing. She leaned against the wall, letting out a shaky breath. What were the odds that the stranger from the wedding was one of the judges? And why had he said nothing about it? Behind the closed door, Claire whispered to Lucas, "You know her?" Lucas did not look away from the sketches still spread on the table. "Not exactly, but I know her work deserves a chance." "No." Later that evening, as Ella walked home through the soft rain, her phone buzzed. A message from the competition committee appeared. "Congratulations, Miss Nguyen. You have advanced to the finalist round. Please prepare to present your prototypes in 2 weeks." Her mouth fell open. She had done it. For the first time in months, hope flared inside her. She smiled to herself and kept walking, not noticing the black car parked across the street. Inside it, Lucas watched from behind tinted glass. He did not want to interfere, but he could not help feeling protective. He told himself it was curiosity, professional interest, maybe even guilt for hiding who he was. But as he watched her disappear into the crowd, the truth was impossible to ignore. It was not curiosity. It was something far more dangerous, something he had not felt in years. The following weekend, the air carried the crisp promise of spring. In a small coffee shop tucked between bookshops in Brooklyn, Ella sat by the window with her sketchbook open, drawing rough outlines for her next design. The hum of chatter around her felt distant, replaced by the quiet rhythm of her pencil against paper. She was so focused that she almost did not notice the man who stopped at her table. "Miss Nguyen," a familiar voice said, smooth and unmistakable. Her head snapped up. Lucas Hale stood there, dressed more casually than before, a light jacket, no tie, a trace of a smile that softened his usual composure. For a second, she forgot how to breathe. "Mr. Hale," she managed, surprised. "What are you doing here?" He gestured toward the empty chair. "May I?" She hesitated before nodding. "Of course." He sat, his presence commanding but not intrusive. The scent of his cologne mingled with the coffee in the air. "I wanted to congratulate you in person. Advancing to the finals is not easy. Your designs stood out." "Thank you," she said carefully. "But you could have sent an email." "I could have," he agreed, "but I prefer conversations that do not come with a send button." His words carried quiet humor, and to her own surprise, she smiled. The tension that had filled her chest began to ease. They talked for nearly an hour, about design, art, and the strange mix of hope and exhaustion that came with chasing dreams in New York. Ella found herself laughing, really laughing for the first time in weeks. When he asked about her work, she spoke with an unfiltered honesty that surprised even her. "I want to make dresses for real women. Not the perfect ones in magazines. Women who survived heartbreak, who pay their bills, who still dare to feel beautiful." Lucas nodded slowly. That kind of courage is rare. As they talked, he studied her hands, steady, purposeful, with faint scars from needles and scissors. This woman had built her world stitch by stitch, without anyone's help. It fascinated him. When their cups were empty, Lucas reached into his jacket pocket. "I believe this belongs to you." He placed the silver bracelet on the table. The sight of it made Ella freeze. She reached out, her fingers trembling. Where did you find this?" "At the wedding," he said gently. "You dropped it when we danced." Her throat tightened. "This bracelet belonged to my mother. I thought it was gone forever. I figured it meant something important. he said softly. For a moment, the noise of the cafe faded. She stared at him, searching for the right words. You did not have to go through all that trouble. It was not trouble, he replied. Some things are worth returning. Ella slipped the bracelet back onto her wrist. It was cold against her skin, but comforting, like a piece of home she had finally reclaimed. Thank you, she said quietly. You are welcome, he answered. And if you ever need help with your next project, call me. My company sponsors creative initiatives, but I promise this is not a business pitch. She smiled, half skeptical. I will keep that in mind. As he stood to leave, he paused. By the way, you dance better when you are not pretending to be fine. She blinked, caught off guard, and before she could reply, he was already walking out the door, the bell above it chiming softly. That night, back in her apartment, Ella traced the bracelet with her thumb, her heart full of questions she could not yet name. She told herself it was coincidence, kindness, nothing more. But when she opened her sketchbook again, she drew a tuxedo beside the gown, two figures dancing under soft light, and for the first time, her designs felt alive with something new, something that looked a lot like hope. A week later, New York woke under a sky, brushed with pale gold. Ella stood in front of the mirror of her tiny apartment, pinning the last detail on a silk gown. Her hands trembled slightly, not from exhaustion this time, but anticipation. Today was the final presentation for the bridal rebirth competition. One dress, one chance. She had poured everything into this design. Every stitch carried a memory of the heartbreak she had survived, of the dreams she refused to bury, and, lately, of a certain man whose words still echoed in her mind. Some things are worth returning. Maya leaned against the doorframe, sipping coffee. You are going to win, she said matter-of-factly. Ella smiled weakly. You say that like it is already decided. It is, Maya said. You just do not see it yet. By mid-morning, the venue buzzed with excitement. Dozens of designers hurried about, models stepping carefully around gowns that shimmered under the lights. Ella's model, a soft-spoken woman named Claire, not the same Claire who worked for Lucas, smiled as she stepped into the gown. It was simple but elegant, ivory silk, with hand-sewn petals cascading down the train like falling snow. When it was her turn to present, Ella took a steady breath and walked onto the stage. Her voice was calm but filled with conviction. This design is called renewal. It is about choosing to begin again, even when life does not go the way we planned. In the audience, Lucas sat among the guests. He had promised himself he would remain quiet, a silent observer. But when the lights illuminated Ella's dress, he forgot about rules and business and everything else. She looked radiant not as a designer, but as someone who had reclaimed her voice. After the presentations ended, Ella joined the other contestants backstage, her heart pounding as the judges deliberated. Her eyes found Lucas across the room, speaking briefly with the event director. He noticed her too, his expression unreadable but warm. Minutes later, the host stepped to the microphone. This year's bridal rebirth winner is... A pause stretched, and Ella's breath caught. Ella Nguyen. Applause erupted around her. For a moment, she just stood still, stunned. Then Maya screamed from the audience, and Ella laughed through her tears. She walked onto the stage to accept the trophy, her knees weak, her heart overflowing. After the ceremony, she stepped outside to catch her breath. The air was cool and smelled faintly of rain. Lucas found her there, standing under the awning, still clutching the glass trophy. Congratulations, he said softly. You earned it. She turned, smiling. You came. I told you I would. They stood in silence for a moment, the city alive around them. Then she asked, Why did you help me, really? You could have chosen anyone. He met her eyes. Because you remind me what honesty looks like. And because when you danced with me that night, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Ella looked down, unsure how to respond. Lucas, you do not have to say that. I am not saying it because I have to, he said. I am saying it because it is true. A quiet laugh escaped her. You are impossible. He smiled faintly. So are you. A raindrop landed on her hand, then another. Lucas reached out, covering her hand with his. Come on, he said, his voice low. Let me walk you home. She hesitated, then nodded. They stepped out together into the gentle rain, the city lights reflecting on the wet pavement like scattered stars. For the first time in years, Ella did not feel like the girl who lost everything. She felt like a woman beginning again with her mother's bracelet on her wrist, and someone beside her who saw her exactly as she was. Over the next few weeks, life changed in quiet, unexpected ways. The victory from the competition opened doors Ella had only dreamed of. Her designs were featured in a boutique downtown, and several clients reached out with commissions. Every day felt like a new beginning, yet one constant remained Lucas. He never pushed, never demanded. Sometimes he would show up at the studio with coffee and stay quietly in the corner while she worked, listening as she explained her sketches. Other times, he would invite her to walk through Central Park after sunset, where conversations flowed easily between laughter and silence. One evening, as they sat on a bench overlooking the lake, Ella glanced at him and said softly, "You are a hard man to read, Mr. Hale." He smiled faintly. "That is because people usually see the job title before they see the man." "And what about me?" she asked. "What do you see?" His eyes met hers, steady and unflinching. "I see someone who creates beauty out of pain. That takes strength." She looked away, pretending to watch the reflections of the city lights ripple across the water. "I am still figuring things out," she murmured. "We all are," he said, "even the ones who seem like they have everything." There was something different about his tone that night, softer, more vulnerable. For a moment, Ella thought about asking what had made him so guarded, but she held back. She had learned that some truths arrived only when the heart was ready. Days passed, and the friendship between them deepened. He became her quiet supporter, someone who believed in her talent more than she did herself. And yet, beneath every shared smile, an unspoken tension simmered, an awareness neither dared to name. One Friday morning, she arrived at her studio to find a note on her desk written in his precise handwriting. "You once said you dream of seeing your work displayed for everyone to admire. Come to the Madison Gallery tonight at 7. L." Confused but intrigued, Ella spent the rest of the day trying to focus on her clients, her curiosity burning beneath every task. When the clock finally struck 7, she arrived at the gallery, her heart racing. Inside, soft music played, and the walls were lined with bridal gowns, her gowns. Every piece she had ever created was displayed under warm light, each tagged with a small plaque that read, "Designed by Ella Nguyen." Tears welled in her eyes. She turned slowly, searching the room until she found Lucas standing by the entrance, watching her quietly. "Lucas," she breathed. "What is all this?" He walked toward her, hands in his pockets. "A small preview. I bought this space to host a charity exhibit for independent designers. But tonight, it belongs to you." "I cannot believe you did this," she said, her voice trembling. He smiled gently. "You have spent years making other people's dreams beautiful. You deserve to see your own." She took a step closer, emotion tightening her throat. "You did not have to go this far." "I wanted to," he replied simply. For a long moment, they stood there surrounded by the soft glow of her creations. She could hear her heartbeat louder than the music. "Lucas," she said finally, "I do not know what to say." "Then do not say anything," he whispered. "Just promise me you will keep creating." Her eyes shimmered. "I will." As the lights dimmed, she looked around the gallery, overwhelmed by gratitude and disbelief. For the first time, her work was no longer a symbol of survival. It was proof that she had found her place. What she did not know was that for Lucas, the gallery was more than a gift. It was his way of confessing something he still could not put into words, that somewhere between a mistaken dance and a returned bracelet, he had fallen deeply in love with her. A few days after the gallery event, the world seemed to move faster around Ella. Articles began circulating online about the mysterious young designer who had caught the attention of the city's elite. Her inbox overflowed with new orders, collaborations, and even interview requests. She was grateful, but every spotlight also brought a shadow she had not expected: questions about her connection to Lucas Hale. Rumors started quietly, then spread like sparks. Some whispered she had used charm to climb the ladder. Others claimed she was secretly engaged to him. At first, Ella ignored them. Gossip always followed success. But soon, the whispers reached her clients, and one afternoon, her manager pulled her aside. "You need to clarify things," he said carefully. "People are saying Hale Capital is funding your rise. If that is true, it might scare away investors." Ella froze, her stomach twisting. "That is not true," she said firmly. "He helped me, yes, but my work speaks for itself." "I know that," he replied, "but perception matters. Just be careful." "No?" That evening, She sat in her apartment, staring at the city lights, her heart heavy. The very kindness that had lifted her was now the reason people doubted her. When Lucas called, she hesitated before answering. "Ella," his voice came through, low and calm. "I heard about the rumors. Do not let them bother you." "It is easy for you to say," she whispered. "You have nothing to lose." There was a pause. "You think I do not care what they say about you?" Her throat tightened. "Lucas, I cannot be seen as the woman who got her success because of a man's money." He sighed quietly. "You earned everything you have, but if you want me to step back, I will." The silence that followed felt colder than the night outside. "No," she said finally, "that is not what I want. I just need to handle this on my own." "Then I will trust you," he replied gently. "But remember, you do not have to face everything alone." "No." After the call ended, Ella leaned back in her chair, staring at the silver bracelet glinting under the lamp. It had once been a symbol of connection, but tonight, it felt like a weight. The next morning, she arrived at her studio to find a crowd outside. Reporters. Microphones flashed. Questions flew toward her. "Miss Nguyen, are you dating Lucas Hale? Is your gallery funded by Hale Capital? Do you plan to marry him?" She pushed through them, her face pale, refusing to answer. Inside, her team looked at her with uncertainty. For the first time since she had won the competition, she felt the walls closing in. Later that night, she received a call from Maya. "You need to see this," her friend said. "There is a headline trending, 'Rising designer linked to millionaire benefactor.' They even used photos of you two from the gallery." Ella's breath caught. "This is going too far." "What are you going to do?" Maya asked. "I will go talk to him," Ella said firmly. "He deserves to know how this is affecting everything." An hour later, she stood outside Lucas's office building. The guards recognized her and let her in, but as the elevator rose, her heart pounded like it did the first night they met. When the doors opened, she saw him by the window, talking on the phone. He turned, eyes softening when he saw her. "Ella." She took a deep breath. "We need to talk." He nodded, ending his call. "I know what this is about." "No." "Then you know I cannot let people think I am using you," she said. "My name, my work, it all matters to me." Lucas looked at her for a long moment, then said quietly, "And what about us? Does that matter?" Her voice broke slightly. "It does. That is why I cannot lose myself in the story they are writing." The silence between them stretched, heavy and painful. He wanted to reach for her, to say something that would make it all easier, but the words never came. For the first time since they met, they stood on opposite sides of the same truth, one trying to protect her integrity, the other trying to protect her heart. The days after that confrontation were the longest Ella could remember. She and Lucas stopped calling, and silence filled the spaces that used to belong to laughter. Her work continued, but it no longer felt alive. Every design she drew seemed hollow, like something essential had been drained from her. The rumors faded slowly, replaced by new gossip about other people. Still, the damage had already been done. A major investor pulled out of her next collection, citing image concerns. When the email came, she sat at her desk for a long time, staring at the words that blurred through her tears. Maya found her there. "You need to take a break," she said gently. "You have been running non-stop since the competition." "I cannot," Ella whispered. "This is my chance. If I stop now, everything will fall apart." "Maybe not everything," Maya said softly. "But if you keep pushing yourself like this, you will." That night, Ella walked through the city alone. The streets were slick with rain, reflecting the neon lights in broken colors. She ended up near the Waldorf Hotel, without realizing it the same place where it all began. Through the glass windows, she could see another wedding taking place. Guests in elegant suits, women in glittering gowns, and a bride laughing beneath a chandelier. She watched for a long time, her reflection merging with the celebration inside. It reminded her of the night she danced with Lucas, when she had mistaken him for someone else, and accidentally stepped into the best mistake of her life. Her chest tightened. "I miss you," she murmured, though no one could hear. Meanwhile, in his penthouse across town, Lucas sat at his desk surrounded by reports he could not read. Claire entered quietly. "Sir, you have a flight to London tomorrow morning. The board meeting—" "Cancel it," he said without looking up. She hesitated. "Again?" "Yes," he said simply. "There are things here that matter more." When she left, he turned his chair toward the window, staring at the city lights. For all his wealth, the view had never looked emptier. He thought about the last time he saw Ella, the determination in her eyes as she spoke about protecting her name. He had admired that strength, but he also realized he had become part of the storm she was fighting. The next morning, an idea came to him. Something quiet, something honest. He called a few people from the event committee and arranged a private showing at the Madison Gallery, the same place where he had once surprised her. This time, however, he asked them to remove every trace of Hale Capital's name from the invitations. The exhibit would belong to her alone. 2 days later, Ella received an email she almost deleted by mistake. The subject line read, "An evening of renewal, honoring independent designers." There was no mention of sponsors or investors, but something about the name made her pause. Renewal. It was the same title as her winning dress. Curiosity tugged at her. That evening, she went. The gallery was softly lit, filled with people admiring her designs. At the center of the room stood a single glass, display a recreation of her first gown, the one she had worn to the competition. Next to it, a small plaque read, "Dedicated to the woman who turned loss into art." She felt her throat tighten. "Who did this?" she asked a staff member. The woman smiled. "A private donor. He said you would know." Before Ella could respond, a familiar voice came from behind her. "I hope I did not overstep again." She turned, and there he was, Lucas, standing under the soft gallery lights, looking both nervous and sincere. "I wanted to give you this," he said, handing her a small envelope. Inside was a contract transferring ownership of the gallery exhibit and all profits from the event to her foundation for young designers. "Lucas, why would you—" "Because you deserve to stand on your own," he interrupted gently. "And because I need you to know that what I feel for you has nothing to do with power or reputation." For a long time, Ella could not speak. The noise of the crowd faded until all she could hear was the rhythm of her own heartbeat. "Lucas," she whispered, her eyes shining, "I never wanted you to disappear. I just wanted to be sure that what we have is real." "It is," he said simply. "It always has been." And for the first time in weeks, she let herself believe it. The night at the gallery became the quiet turning point they both needed. After the crowd drifted away and the last light dimmed, Ella and Lucas stood among the gowns that had once been her dreams. Now they were her reality, proof of everything she had built with her own hands. She turned to him, her voice barely above a whisper. "You did not have to do all of this." "I wanted to," he said simply. "But I think you already knew that." "No." They walked slowly through the exhibit, their footsteps soft against the marble floor. Every dress carried a memory of where she had been and how far she had come. When they reached the final display, the one dedicated to renewal, she stopped. "This was supposed to be about starting over," she said. "But now I think it is about finally coming home." Lucas smiled faintly. "Maybe it can be both." One. She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not the CEO or the man in the tuxedo from that night, but someone who had been patient enough to wait until she found herself again. "I was angry," she admitted. "Not at you, but at the idea that people would never see me for who I am. You gave me the space to prove it." He shook his head. "You did that on your own. I just had the privilege of watching." "No." A quiet moment passed. Then Lucas reached into his pocket and pulled out something small and silver, the bracelet she had once lost and found again. This time, it had been repaired, the clasp strengthened, the engraving polished until it gleamed. He took her hand gently. "The first time I gave this back, it was to return something that was already yours. Now I am asking if I can be part of what comes next." Her eyes softened, tears glinting under the light. "Lucas," she breathed. "Yes." "No." He smiled, slipping the bracelet onto her wrist once more. "Then let us never call that dance a mistake again." Outside, the city hummed softly, alive with its endless rhythm. They stepped out of the gallery together, the cool air brushing against them as the lights of New York shimmered above. Weeks later, a new article appeared online. From a mistaken dance to a lifetime partnership, designer Ella Nguyen and entrepreneur Lucas Hale announced their engagement. In the photo, they stood side by side, laughing beneath a canopy of white lights. No scandal, no pretense, just two people who had met by accident and chosen each other on purpose. And in her studio, the bracelet caught the sunlight as she worked on her newest collection, The Best Mistake We Ever Made.